The alien hologram flickered out of existence, leaving the United Earth Defense Council chamber in stunned silence. Commander Elena Chen maintained her composed expression until the last trace of Admiral Zorthak's sneering face disappeared. Only then did she allow herself a small smile. "Admiral thinks we're preparing surrender documents," she said, rising from her seat at the circular oak table. "Activate Protocol Thunderbolt immediately." General Santos, representing the Pan-American Alliance, leaned forward. "You're certain 72 hours is enough time?" "It has to be," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. "Deployment has been prepared for this scenario since we first detected their approach 3 months ago." The council chamber's wall panels slid aside, revealing massive digital displays tracking global defense assets. Red dots representing the hegemony fleet hovered in Earth's orbit like malevolent stars. Elena swiped her hand across the main tactical screen, bringing up classified deployment zones across all continents. "The hegemony's preliminary scan missed 87% of our military capabilities," said Dr. Kato, head of Earth's Counterintelligence Division. The older woman adjusted her glasses and continued, "Their technology evolved toward detecting energy signatures, not our particular brand of defenses." Outside the reinforced windows of the Geneva complex, civilians hurried through streets under the strange shadows cast by the alien vessels. Emergency broadcasts had prevented widespread panic, but fear hung in the air as tangibly as the alien ships above. Elena's secure comm unit buzzed. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka's face appeared on the small screen. "Commander, Project Stillwater is ready for your inspection. You should see this before making final deployment decisions." "I'll be there in 20, Elena responded, then addressed the council. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need unanimous approval to execute full defensive protocols. We won't get a second chance at this." The council members exchanged glances, the gravity of the situation reflected in their eyes. One by one, they placed their palms on the biometric readers embedded in the table. "The United African Federation stands with you, Commander," said Representative Adebayo. "Eurasian coalition forces await your command," added Minister Volkov. After the final authorization, Elena strode from the chamber toward the underground maglev station that would transport her to the Rocky Mountain complex. Her aide, Lieutenant Park, matched her brisk pace. "The aliens destroyed Johnston Atoll with a weapon we can't even classify," Park said, reviewing data on his tablet. "Their energy output readings are off our established charts." "And yet they didn't detect our Phantom grid or the Artemis platforms," Elena replied. "Their technological evolution took a completely different path from ours. That's our advantage." The maglev pod rocketed through the underground tunnel network at 700 kilometers per hour. Elena used the journey to review final deployment strategies and contingency plans. Humanity would get one chance to surprise the hegemony. After that, it would be a test of which technological approach would prevail. As the pod decelerated at the Rocky Mountain complex, Elena steeled herself for what lay ahead. The alien admiral had shown Earth what his civilization considered the pinnacle of weapons technology, flashy, destructive, and meant to inspire terror. In less than 72 hours, humanity would show the hegemony something they hadn't seen in millennia, a species that turned disadvantage into innovation, that thrived on challenges, and that had developed in ways the aliens couldn't begin to comprehend. Commander Elena Chen was no longer just a military leader. She had become humanity's final defensive line against extinction, and she had no intention of surrendering. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka led Commander Chen deeper into the mountain complex, past layers of security that grew increasingly stringent with each checkpoint. The air grew cooler as they descended to the lowest level, designated Omega Section. Most of the hegemony's technology is built around directed energy, Hiroshi explained as they walked through a corridor lined with transparent material stronger than steel. Their entire civilization abandoned physical projectile weapons approximately 4,000 years ago, according to our xenorcheology estimates. Elena studied the containment chambers on either side. In one, a swarm of microscopic drones shifted like a living metallic cloud. In another, a material so black it seemed to swallow light coated various vehicle components. Their scanner technology evolved to detect energy signatures and radiation, Hiroshi continued. But our carbon fiber composites, ceramic plates, and tungsten-titanium alloys barely register on their systems. We're effectively invisible until we choose not to be. They entered the central command hub, where a three-dimensional holographic display showed Earth surrounded by red markers representing the alien fleet. Green points indicated Earth's hidden defensive positions. "Show me Stillwater," Elena said. Hiroshi gestured to a technician who entered a series of commands. The hologram zoomed to Earth's oceans, where thousands of small objects appeared, previously hidden. Autonomous submersible platforms, Hiroshi explained with quiet pride. Railgun-equipped, capable of launching hypersonic projectiles from underwater directly into orbit. The hegemony sensors can't penetrate our ocean depths effectively, and they've positioned their vessels in optimal ranges for our strike capabilities. Elena studied the deployment pattern, and the kinetic impact will penetrate their shields. Their defensive systems are designed to disperse energy, not stop physical objects, said Dr. Kayla Patel, head of the weapons division, joining them at the display. Think of it like trying to stop a bullet with a flamethrower. Their shields are incredibly advanced against the weapons they expect, but fundamentally unsuited for what we're about to hit them with. A simulation played on a secondary screen showing a tungsten rod striking an alien vessel. The shield flared brilliantly, but failed to stop the projectile, which penetrated the hull with devastating results. What about civilian casualties if they retaliate? Elena asked, ever mindful of the population centers beneath the alien ships. Operation Sanctuary is already at 63% completion, Kayla reported. Underground shelters are receiving civilians in all major cities. The Phantom Grid can intercept energy weapons with 91% effectiveness based on what we observed at Johnston Atoll. Elena moved to a weapon display case where a sleek exoskeleton suit stood. Its surface was covered in the same light-absorbing material she'd seen earlier. Ghost protocol units are ready for deployment, Hiroshi said, following her gaze. Special forces equipped with these can board their vessels through hull breaches. The suits are invisible to their sensor technology. Elena placed her hand against the transparent barrier, studying the technology that represented humanity's best hope. The hegemony thinks they're giving us time to accept defeat. Instead, they've given us exactly what we need, time to deploy our countermeasures. Across the complex and around the world, soldiers prepared, engineers made final adjustments, and humanity's hidden arsenal awakened. Admiral Tsorthak believed he was facing a primitive species armed with crude weapons. In less than 48 hours, he would discover just how wrong that assumption was. "Begin final countdown," Elena commanded. "When the hegemony returns for their surrender documents, I want them to receive our response in terms they won't expect, but will never forget." Captain Maya Rodriguez felt the familiar weight of G-forces press her into the command seat as her Peregrine stealth fighter accelerated vertically. The craft's carbon nanotube hull absorbed radar and lidar pulses from the alien vessels overhead. On her tactical display, 11 other peregrines moved into attack formation, appearing as nothing more than atmospheric disturbances to alien sensors. Stillwater platforms report ready, came the voice of her tactical officer, Lieutenant Wei. Submersible units have optimal firing solutions on 6 capital ships. Ghost teams in position for boarding operations, added Commander Okafor from the secondary strike team. Maya checked her chronometer. Admiral Tsorathak's flagship was descending toward the designated surrender location exactly on schedule. The massive ship's energy shields shimmered like heat waves in the atmosphere. "Remember your training," Maya transmitted to all attack squadrons. "Their targeting systems track energy signatures. Our advantage is they won't see us until impact." She switched to the command channel. "Thunderbolt actual. Strike leader requesting final authorization." Commander Chen's voice came through with crystal clarity. "Strike leader, you are cleared to engage. Remind them why humanity should never be underestimated." Maya felt a surge of determination as she armed her squadron's kinetic penetrators. "All units, execute attack pattern Omega. Weapons free." Across Earth's oceans, hundreds of concealed platforms rose just enough to break the water's surface. The hegemony scanners, attuned to detect energy weapons, registered only minor anomalies as railguns charged with conventional electricity. Inside the flagship's command center, Admiral Tsorathak studied holographic displays of Earth's major cities. "Their leadership approaches with surrender documents," an officer reported. "Primitive ground vehicles are converging on the designated location." The Admiral's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Prepare to receive there." The first tungsten rod struck the flagship at 11 times the speed of sound. The ship's energy shields flared brilliantly, but failed to stop the physical projectile. Alarms wailed as the rod penetrated 3 decks before lodging in a power conduit. "Impossible." Tsorathak roared as damage reports flooded in. "Scan for energy weapons." "There are none, Admiral," his sensor officer replied in confusion. "These are physical projectiles. Our shields are calibrated for." A second impact rocked the ship, followed by dozens more as the Stillwater platforms unleashed their full arsenal. Throughout the hegemony fleet, confusion turned to chaos as vessels, designed to withstand energy barrages, found themselves perforated by hypervelocity projectiles. Maya led her squadron directly toward the wounded flagship. "Ghost teams, we've created your entry points. Begin boarding operations." Special forces in sensor-invisible exoskeletons launched from the peregrine fighters, using the hull breaches as entry points into the alien vessel. Inside, they deployed microscopic drone swarms that infiltrated the ship's systems, disabling weapons and life support section by section. On another flank, Commander Okafor's squadron engaged the hegemony's escort cruisers. "They're trying to target us with energy weapons," he reported, "but their tracking systems can't lock onto our hulls." Maya watched with grim satisfaction as the Admiral's flagship listed in the sky, multiple systems failing simultaneously. Earth's supposedly primitive technology was tearing through the advanced alien fleet. In the hegemony command carrier, Admiral Tsorathak stared in disbelief at displays, showing his invincible fleet being systematically dismantled by weapons their sensors could barely detect. "Retreat," he finally ordered, his voice quivering with rage and shock. "All vessels, emergency withdrawal." But for many ships in the hegemony fleet, the order came too late. Humanity had delivered its answer to the alien ultimatum, written in technology the Invaders had never anticipated. Zivra ran her six-fingered hand over the human raildown component, her large eyes reflecting a mixture of scientific curiosity and dismay. The captured scientist's chromatophores shifted to a muted blue as she contemplated the implications. "You developed magnetic acceleration to such precision," she said, addressing Dr. Tanaka. "The hegemony abandoned this technology during our third expansion era, considering it a stepping stone to proper weapons development." Dr. Tanaka adjusted his glasses. "Our path diverged from yours because of different environmental pressures. Earth's magnetic field and abundant iron resources made this development logical for us." They stood in a secure laboratory beneath Geneva, surrounded by both human technologies and captured alien components. The air hummed with the subtle vibration of containment fields. "Your species' technological philosophy is fundamentally different from ours," Zivra continued, moving to examine a microscopic drone swarm contained in a transparent cylinder. "The hegemony values spectacle and visible demonstrations of power. Our weapons evolved to be seen, to intimidate. While we evolved toward efficiency and stealth," Elena added, entering the laboratory. Her uniform showed signs of a sleepless night, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. "Show me what you've learned." Dr. Tanaka activated a holographic display showing comparative scans of alien shield technology. Their defensive systems create energy fields that disperse radiation, heat, and other energy-based attacks with remarkable efficiency. But they never developed protection against kinetic penetrators because they considered physical projectiles obsolete. "Like developing an umbrella so advanced it can block individual raindrops," Elena said, "but forgetting that hail exists." Across the room, a team of engineers worked to integrate a captured alien power source with human weapon designs. The small device, no larger than a coffee mug, contained enough energy to power a small city. "Will Admiral Tsorthak retreat permanently?" Dr. Tanaka asked. Zivra's skin darkened to a deep indigo. "No. The Admiral's position in the hegemony hierarchy depends on successful conquests. Failure is unacceptable. He will return with greater firepower." "The Star Cleaver," Elena said, recalling intelligence gleaned from captured data cores. Zivra's chromatophores pulsed with alarm. "You know of this weapon?" "We know it exists. We don't know its capabilities. It harnesses dark energy to destabilize planetary crusts," Zivra explained, her voice lowering. "It has been used only twice in hegemony history, against civilizations that resisted beyond acceptable parameters. Both their worlds are now asteroid fields." A heavy silence fell over the laboratory. Elena studied the alien scientist's expression, finding what appeared to be genuine concern. "Why are you helping us, Zivra? You're betraying your people." "I'm a scientist first," she replied, her color shifting to violet. "The hegemony's technological stagnation isn't just scientific tragedy, it's cultural suicide. We stopped innovating 10,000 years ago, perfecting rather than creating." She gestured to the human technologies surrounding them. "In 3 days, I've seen your species adapt and incorporate our technology into your own. The hegemony would take decades to approve such changes." An urgent alert sounded from Elena's communication device. She checked the message, her expression hardening. "The hegemony fleet has regrouped at your system's edge," she told Zivra. "Our deep space arrays detect a massive energy signature entering your faster-than-light corridors." "The Star Cleaver," Zivra confirmed, her skin paling to nearly white. "You have perhaps 48 hours before it arrives." Elena turned to Dr. Tanaka. "Then we have 48 hours to prepare a proper welcome. Humanity is about to show the hegemony what real innovation, Looks like when survival depends on it. The integration lab pulsed with activity as scientists and engineers worked in seamless coordination. Holographic schematics hovered above workstations where human hands manipulated alien components with growing confidence. Dr. Tanaka moved between teams, reviewing progress and offering guidance where needed. The hegemony power cells operate on principles we theorized, but never successfully implemented, he explained to Commander Chen as they observed a test chamber where engineers were connecting an alien power source to a modified railgun. Their energy density is remarkable, but they designed these cells for controlled, sustained output. And we're adapting them for rapid discharge, Elena observed, watching as the test fired a hypersonic projectile with twice the velocity of Earth's previous technology. Precisely. What they used to power a city for months, we're using to deliver concentrated force in milliseconds. Across the facility, Zivra worked alongside Dr. Kayla Patel, analyzing the Star Cleaver's technical specifications. The alien scientists' movements had grown more urgent as the countdown timer on the wall steadily decreased. 39 hours remained. The weapon creates a focused dark energy field that disrupts molecular bonds, Zivra explained, manipulating a three-dimensional model. Its effect begins at a planet's surface and propagates downward, causing catastrophic tectonic instability. Kayla studied the energy transmission patterns. But it has to maintain focal coherence through the atmosphere. That's your weakness. The Star Cleaver was designed to demonstrate hegemony power, not to be efficiently lethal, Zivra admitted. It generates a visible energy column connecting the weapon to its target, intimidating but ultimately inefficient. Elena joined them, reviewing their findings. Can we disrupt this energy column? Theoretically, Kayla replied. If we could deploy a superconducting mesh at the precise coordinates where the beam will strike, we could create a catastrophic feedback loop. We would need thousands of drones carrying superconducting filaments. Dr. Tanaka interjected, already calculating requirements. And they would need to deploy within seconds of the weapon's targeting phase. Elena's communication device chimed with an incoming message from Captain Rodriguez. The battle-tested pilot's face appeared on the small screen, her expression grim but determined. Commander, the first hybrid vessels are ready for deployment, Maya reported. Crews are training on the integrated systems now. How are they performing? Elena asked. Better than we anticipated. The alien power systems allow our kinetic weapons to operate at 160% of designed capacity. We've also successfully integrated their sensor blocking technology with our stealth systems. Elena nodded with approval. Prepare for orbital deployment in 24 hours. We'll need your squadron to provide cover for Operation Boomerang. As the call ended, Elena turned back to the assembled team. The hegemony spent millennia perfecting a single technological path. We need to show them the power of diversity in thinking. Dr. Tanaka gestured toward a secure chamber where the first prototype of Earth's hybrid defense ship awaited final testing. Its sleek hull incorporated both human materials science and alien energy management systems. The first vessel is ready for your inspection, Commander. Elena walked toward the observation deck, Zivra following close behind. The alien scientists' chromatophores had shifted to a deep purple that human researchers had come to recognize as expression of awe. Your species achieved in 48 hours what would take the hegemony a generation, Zivra said quietly. Admiral Xorthak still doesn't understand what he's facing. Elena studied the hybrid vessel, humanity's latest evolution in a technological arms race that had suddenly accelerated beyond anything Earth had known before. "Then let's make sure he learns quickly," she replied. "The universe has room for many paths of development, but not for those who refuse to recognize the value in diversity." Captain Maya Rodriguez's hybrid fighter squadron maintained position in Earth's upper atmosphere, invisible to the hegemony sensors. The 12 vessels incorporated alien power systems with human stealth technology, creating an unprecedented fusion of both civilizations' strengths. "Starcleaver has completed transition from faster-than-light travel," reported Lieutenant Wei over the secure channel. "Energy signature is massive and growing." Through her cockpit, Maya watched as the colossal weapon emerged from what the aliens called slip space. The construct dwarfed even Admiral Sorthak's flagship, its central chamber glowing with concentrated dark energy that distorted the very space around it. "Deploy Operation Boomerang drones on my mark," Maya ordered, checking the status of the specialized units stored in her fighters' launch bays. Each carried a filament of room-temperature superconducting material developed by combining human nanotechnology with alien power regulation systems. Admiral Sorthak's voice boomed across all communication channels, his translation software failing to mask his contempt. "Humans of Earth, witness the price of defiance. The Starcleaver has never failed to reduce a world to rubble. Your primitive projectile weapons cannot reach us at this range." In the Geneva Command Center, Commander Chen watched the tactical display with Dr. Tanaka and Zivra at her side. The Starcleaver's targeting systems had begun calibration, searching for the optimal strike point along Earth's tectonic boundaries. "The firing sequence has begun," Zivra confirmed, her skin paling to an ashen grey. "We have approximately 3 minutes before it reaches full power." Elena opened a channel to Maya's squadron. "Captain, your window for drone deployment begins in 90 seconds. The targeting coordinates are being transmitted now." "Acknowledged, Commander. Drones primed and ready." The massive weapon's central spire began to rotate, its energy signature building toward a catastrophic release. Across Earth, civilians huddled in underground shelters while defense systems stood ready. This would be humanity's most crucial test, whether ingenuity could overcome raw power. "Remember," Dr. Tanaka said, studying the Starcleaver's energy patterns, "the hegemony designed this weapon for maximum visual impact. The sustained energy beam is technologically impressive, but creates a persistent connection that we can exploit." On the tactical display, thousands of small indicators represented the drone swarm carried by Maya's squadron. Each microscopic machine contained a fragment of the superconducting mesh that would form directly in the weapon's firing path. Targeting lock confirmed, Maya reported as her sensors detected the Starcleaver's energy spike. "They're aiming for the Pacific Ring of Fire." Elena's expression remained resolute. "Deploy drones. All units execute attack pattern Phoenix." Across Earth's orbit, the hybrid vessels that had remained hidden now activated their engines, appearing suddenly on the hegemony sensors. The alien fleet responded with confusion, their formations breaking as they attempted to intercept these unexpected threats. From Maya's fighter, thousands of microscopic drones launched in perfect sequence, forming a three-dimensional lattice in the projected path of the Starcleaver's beam. The invisible web of superconducting material waited for the weapon's discharge. "Energy levels at maximum," Wei reported. "They're firing." The Starcleaver's central chamber erupted with blinding light as a column of concentrated dark energy lanced toward Earth. For a brief moment, Admiral Sorthak believed victory was certain, until the beam struck the drone-deployed superconducting mesh. The effect was instantaneous. Instead of continuing to Earth's surface, The energy rebounded through the mesh in a cascading feedback loop, surging back toward its source. Alarms wailed throughout the hegemony fleet as the Star Cleaver's containment systems began to fail. Impossible. Xorthak roared as warning lights flooded his command center. Divert power to containment fields. But it was too late. The weapon designed to destroy worlds had become its own worst enemy, its energy turning inward in a spectacular demonstration of human ingenuity defeating alien power. The Star Cleaver's catastrophic implosion sent shockwaves throughout the hegemony fleet. Vessels nearest to the superweapon suffered critical damage as energy cascaded outward in brilliant purple waves. Ships further out initiated emergency maneuvers, breaking formation as commanders made individual decisions without central coordination. In the Geneva Command Center, Elena watched the tactical display with measured satisfaction. The hegemony fleet had fractured into 3 distinct groups, their once perfect formation dissolving into chaos. 7 vessels have powered down weapons and are broadcasting surrender protocols, reported General Santos, monitoring communications intercepts. They're from the Merivian and Talasian contingents, the species most recently incorporated into the hegemony. Elena nodded. As Zivra predicted, the newer member species have the least loyalty to Xorthak's leadership. On a secondary screen, footage from Earth's orbital platforms showed the aftermath of the Star Cleaver's destruction. Where once the massive weapon had dominated space, now only scattered debris and dissipating energy remained. The hegemony's ultimate expression of technological might had been undone by human ingenuity and adaptability. Admiral Xorthak's flagship is still operational, Dr. Tanaka noted, pointing to a large red indicator on the display. They've suffered damage but maintain combat capability. Elena opened a communication channel to all hegemony vessels. Her face and voice would be translated according to each species' perceptual norms. This is Commander Elena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Your superweapon has been neutralized using your own technology against you. She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Earth did not seek this conflict. We offer terms. Recognize Earth as a sovereign power, establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect, and this engagement ends today. Continue hostilities, and we will demonstrate more of humanity's technological capabilities. The response was immediate from the surrendering vessels, whose commanders appeared on separate communication windows. A feathered being with 4 eyes spoke first, identifying itself as Sub-Commander Talavek of the Talasian fleet. The Talasian Confederation acknowledges Earth's sovereignty and requests formal diplomatic exchange. Similar messages followed from other species, each breaking away from hegemony control in recognition of the shifting balance of power. Admiral Xorthak's response came last, his mandibles clicking in barely contained fury. This temporary setback changes nothing. The hegemony has conquered 1,000 worlds. One primitive species with stolen technology poses no threat to our dominion. The visual feed showed the Admiral turning to his bridge officers. Prepare all remaining vessels for direct assault on their orbital platforms. We will not be humiliated by these. The transmission cut abruptly. When it resumed, a different alien stood at the command position. The new figure's ceremonial armor identified it as Vice Admiral Kreshnar. Commander Chen, I have relieved Admiral Xorthak of duty under emergency protocols, the new commander stated formally. His final order constituted a violation of hegemony strategic doctrine regarding engagement with technologically adaptive species. Elena exchanged glances with Zivra, whose chromatophores had shifted to an intrigued purple hue. This is unprecedented, the alien scientist whispered. A command challenge during active combat has not occurred in hegemony history for 12,000 cycles. Vice Admiral Kreshnar continued, mandibles held in what Zivra identified as a posture of cautious respect. I request a temporary cessation of hostilities while the Hegemony Council evaluates the situation. Your demonstration of technological adaptation has created significant reconsideration of our initial assessment. Elena smiled slightly. The Hegemony hadn't just lost a battle, they had experienced a fundamental challenge to their worldview. Earth hadn't merely defended itself, it had forced a galactic power to question assumptions held for millennia. Request granted, she replied. We await the Council's response. The Starcleaver's catastrophic implosion sent shockwaves throughout the Hegemony fleet. Vessels nearest to the superweapon suffered critical damage as energy cascaded outward in brilliant purple waves. Ships further out initiated emergency maneuvers, breaking formation as commanders made individual decisions without central coordination. In the Geneva Command Center, Elena watched the tactical display with measured satisfaction. The Hegemony fleet had fractured into 3 distinct groups, their once perfect formation dissolving into chaos. 7 vessels have powered down weapons and are broadcasting surrender protocols, reported General Santos, monitoring communications intercepts. They're from the Merivian and Talasian contingents, the species most recently incorporated into the Hegemony. Elena nodded. As Zivra predicted, the newer member species have the least loyalty to Xorthak's leadership. On a secondary screen, footage from Earth's orbital platforms showed the aftermath of the Starcleaver's destruction. Where once the massive weapon had dominated space, now only scattered debris and dissipating energy remained. The Hegemony's ultimate expression of technological might had been undone by human ingenuity and adaptability. Admiral Xorthak's flagship is still operational, Dr. Tanaka noted, pointing to a large red indicator on the display. They've suffered damage but maintain combat capability. Elena opened a communication channel to all Hegemony vessels. Her face and voice would be translated according to each species' perceptual norms. This is Commander Elena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Your superweapon has been neutralized using your own technology against you. She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Earth did not seek this conflict. We offer terms. Recognize Earth as a sovereign power, establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect, and this engagement ends today. Continue hostilities, and we will demonstrate more of humanity's technological capabilities. The response was immediate from the surrendering vessels, whose commanders appeared on separate communication windows. A feathered being with 4 eyes spoke first, identifying itself as Sub-Commander Talavek of the Talasian fleet. The Talasian Confederation acknowledges Earth's sovereignty and requests formal diplomatic exchange. Similar messages followed from other species, each breaking away from hegemony control in recognition of the shifting balance of power. Admiral Xorthak's response came last, his mandibles kicking in barely contained fury. This temporary setback changes nothing. The hegemony has conquered 1,000 worlds. One primitive species with stolen technology poses no threat to our dominion. The visual feed showed the Admiral turning to his bridge officers. Prepare all remaining vessels for direct assault on their orbital platforms. We will not be humiliated by these. The transmission cut abruptly. When it resumed, a different alien stood at the command position. The new figure's ceremonial armor identified it as Vice Admiral Kreshnar. Commander Chen, I have relieved Admiral Xorthak of duty under emergency protocols, the new commander stated formally. His final order constituted a violation of hegemony strategic doctrine regarding engagement with technologically adaptive species. Elena exchanged glances with Zivra, whose chromatophores had shifted to an intrigued purple hue. "This is unprecedented," the alien scientist whispered. "A command challenge during active combat has not occurred in hegemony history for 12,000 cycles." Vice Admiral Kreshnar continued, mandibles held in what Zivra identified as a posture of cautious respect. "I request a temporary cessation of hostilities while the Hegemony Council evaluates the situation. Your demonstration of technological adaptation has created significant reconsideration of our initial assessment." Elena smiled slightly. The Hegemony hadn't just lost a battle, they had experienced a fundamental challenge to their worldview. Earth hadn't merely defended itself, it had forced a galactic power to question assumptions held for millennia. "Request granted," she replied. "We await the Council's response."